All right, so I was going to do the first video on the U.S. restaurant recession from wolfstreet.com, Richter. I think that's pronounced Richter. Whatever. Richter. And I got sidetracked on the housing thing, which is why I did that first video. But this kind of goes hand in hand. Again, we have these massive foreclosures happening all around me, and maybe around you. I didn't even check other parts of the country. I was blown away by what I found in my surrounding area. And that area I showed you is a couple, circular radius, probably a couple hundred, maybe not a couple hundred miles, but close, 100 and something miles in a radius. That's a lot of land, city, a little bit of country, you name it, on the water, not on the water, just massive foreclosures, auctions everywhere. This is not a healthy housing market, and prices are at an all-time high. This can only go down and down badly. But to go hand in hand with that, how does the restaurant industry look for people who go and eat out? I think you already know what the answer is going to be based on what I just told you in my last video about the foreclosures. If people are getting foreclosed on, there's a good chance they don't have extra money to go out to dinner like they used to. Is that a fair assessment? Fair hypotheses? So wolfstreet.com, Wolf Richter says, flat sales are now a welcome change, the new normal. National restaurant data and anecdotal evidence has been piling up. T. Vogel, a commenter on Wolf Street, put it this way. My wife and I make almost $30K more than the median family income in my town, Northern California, with no kids. Our rent just went up by $1,000 a month. Landlord is selling. Starter houses are now selling at $500,000. Notice he said starter houses. Starter houses is what I would consider my last house. 1,500 square foot house. My wife and I, first time home buyers, back in 2003 or whatever the hell it was when we first got the house. Starter house. Built in 1964. I think the house back then was $111,000. Old J Snip 4 and wife, starting our lives together. And we had kids, we had the twins, we got to get out of this house. It's too small. It's a starter house. We knew this. Long story short, we moved. We live in this house now, which is like 2,900 square foot. I'm paying rent here. Beautiful house. Love the house. Nicest house I've ever lived in, by the way. Not used to real nice things in my life. I work hard for my money and, my things, but I'm not rich or anything by any means. But I pride myself in certain things, and I'm proud of this house. So, hey, Evelyn, we've got a nice house now. Our kids are here, a lot of room for everybody. I got my little spot downstairs while everybody's upstairs sleeping right now. I can do my videos. I'm loving life. So starter houses, and I get it. It's California, Northern California. But again, $500,000 for a starter house? What the hell's going on? So he says the comment still goes on, we are not spending a dime more than needed. I plan to skip our weekly night eating out now. Why? Because his rent just went up by $1,000 a month. Ooh. They're not the only ones to skip restaurants. Costs are going up, not just of restaurant meals, but of life in general. Incomes are lagging behind, and consumers, well, what do consumers do? We adjust. That's what they're doing. They're adjusting. That's what a Reuters IPSOS or IPSOS opinion poll of more than 4,200 U.S. adults confirmed today. Oh, wait a minute. The poll actually polled 4,200? Oh, that's right. We're not talking about politics and the liberal left. Reuters polled 1,000 people, or CNN polled 1,000 people today, and Hillary's got a commanding 1,000 people. Get the F out of here. Anyways, 4,200 people were in this opinion poll. 1/3 of the respondents said they were eating in restaurants less often than 3 months ago. The poll was conducted in the second half of January. Of them, 62% cited cost as the primary reason. Restaurant prices have been rising. Well, of course, the people who work at the restaurant owner, their rent just went up $1,000. The housing market's out of control right now, about to crash, but it's at the all-time high. They got to pay these bills, right? Who gets stuck at the bottom? The consumer, the taxpayer, the imbecile, us sheep, who just don't pay attention to anything. Everything's awesome. I have no concerns in the world. Put on my happy face. Talk to myself in the mirror how I'm going to have a good day today. Brush my hair. Oh, not me. I'm not brushing this hair, but maybe you would. And don't give me any bad news. I just want to have a good day today. Well, I'm sorry. News is news. Anyways, restaurant prices have been rising. The price index for food away from home, a subcategory in the consumer price index, increased between 2% and 3% every year since 2012. Don't tell my wife that. She doesn't like me eating out every day at lunch. But I said, Evelyn, I work hard for my money. So hot. Okay. In January, it rose 2.4% year over year. Those price increases are cumulative, and they add up after a while. It's not just that eating out is getting more expensive. It's that stretched households are pushed by price increases elsewhere, rent, etc., to divert some of their limited means from eating out to other expenditures. Yet grocery stores aren't reporting blockbuster numbers either. Bob Golden, partner at food industry strategy firm Pentelect, told Reuters, quote, "There's more splintering of the food dollar and the pie isn't growing," he said. "Where you spend has changed more than the amount you spend." The national averages, as seen from the restaurant's point of view, bear that out. In its most recent Restaurant Performance Index, the National Restaurant Association. I got to stop for a second. I can't believe how many associations there are. Homeowners Association, the Clubs Association. There's an association for everything. The National Restaurant Association lamented soft same-store sales and customer traffic readings in December, which kept the current situation index, tracking some store sales, traffic, labor, and capital expenditures, in contraction mode for the third month in a row. 42% of operators said the same-store sales declined year over year. 47% of operators said their customer traffic declined year over year. This sort of data has been coming out for a while. It got to the point where the site TDN2K titled its most recent restaurant industry snapshot, "Flat Sales, Welcome Change for Restaurant Industry in January." And more specifically, it said while same-store sales growth was flat, or 0%, in January, it represented a welcome break from the 10 consecutive months of negative sales growth experienced by the industry through the end of last year. These flat sales were a function of slightly higher per-person average spending and fewer people going to restaurants. Same-store traffic was down 2.5% monthly and 4.1% on a rolling 3-month basis. As the report put it, although still negative, this was the best month for the industry since last May. And that sucks. Okay? On a 2-year basis, same-store sales were down 0.8% from January of 2015. There were some winners in January with growing same-store sales: upscale, casual, family dining, and quick service. Casual dining was able to achieve flat results in January. So again, zero, no growth. Hallelujah, thus breaking a 13-month streak in a 13 months in a row of falling same-store sales. And there were some losers with same-store sales declines, according to the TDN2K report: fine dining and fast casual. You get the idea. It's been so tough out there for restaurants that any sort of flat spot or even a smaller downtick in the averages is welcome news for the industry. And it looks like it's becoming a structural feature of the U.S. economy, though not nearly as bad as the downward spiral of brick and mortar retail, which is another sad story. This, of course, contradicts the theory or hopes that millennials, who are said to prefer splurging money on experiences such as eating out rather than on products such as clothes, would pull the restaurant business out of its funk. That said, you wouldn't necessarily know this by walking around San Francisco. Yelp lists nearly 8,000 eating establishments in the city, many of them recent creations, including 500 cafes and 3,000 delis. A lot of the places are packed. Some can be impossible to get into on a Friday or Saturday night without a reservation days or even weeks in advance. Others are nearly impossible to get into no matter when or what. But then other restaurants, not the San Fran ones, are nearly empty. There has been a slew of recent restaurant closures amid talk of a big shakeout, including something called the Mid-Market Massacre in an area around around Market Street, where restaurant after restaurant closes, done in by exorbitant rents, not enough traffic, too much competition, a finicky public that might have lost interest, and insufficient sales. So yes, it's tough out there, even in San Francisco, in what must be one of the toughest businesses on earth. This is why a real estate insider thinks the era of aspirational pricing is over. And he has a link that he links to also from his own site, Wolf Street. Luxury home listings overpriced by a third? ? When a real estate insider thinks the era of aspirational pricing is over. Not when, why he does. Luxury real estate got battered in 2016. Again, I'm not even going to read this article because I've already told you about real estate. If you are one of the people out there, when this crap all goes down and housing with it, that happens to not really be affected, and you have your job, everything's the same, you're happy, life's good for you, even though you hear old Jason at 4 and other people talking about it on YouTube and they show you what's happening elsewhere and you understand, thank God it's not me. You are going to have buying opportunities from all those who are affected of a lifetime. There are going to be all kinds of things for sale. And one of the things that I hope comes for sale is a real nice double-seater or two-place ultralight aircraft. Just in the time when I get my house, I got my property, and I'm thinking I want to go look for one. I want to go to Craigslist. I want to go online and say, didn't listen, advertisements. Did not listen to the people on YouTube like Jason at 4. Blew my money, believed in what the government said, believed in what the mainstream media said, and now I must sell my love of my life, aircraft such and such. Make me an offer. How long has it been listed? Oh, it's been listed on there for a while. Let me give him a call. Hey, listen, my name's Jason at 4. That Jason at 4? Yeah, that one. The one who's been trying to wake people like you up for a long time. And now I'm going to do you a favor because no one else is in the aircraft industry market right now for ultralights, by the way. They're worried about putting food on the table. But I, assuming I am not affected, would like to make an offer on this aircraft. And while I could rake you over the coals and break one off in you, I'm not that kind of guy. So I'd still like to make you a fair offer. But I'm not going to get crazy because there's some other stuff out there that's way cheaper that I could go buy today. But I want what you have. And I see you're hurting, you need some cash, I want to make you a deal. By the way, do you want that in precious metal or do you want it in cash? It's your call. By the way, here's a chart of recent metal movements. Do you want this or do you want cash? And see what he says. Anyways, that's it. On to the next one. Take care.